These are 7 levels of Ben 10 Fan Omnitrix.
Level 1. The modifications.
These are the Omnitrixes that exist in a reality that is only slightly modified from the original. Take for example 5 years later, since this reality takes place 5 years after the ending of both Danny Phantom and Ben 10, the watch itself has inadvertently become an increment of the Omnitrix from Omniverse. It has a similar design philosophy with a wider faceplate, also with a circular alien selection user interface, but it also has 2 buttons at the sides that allow the core to pop up, which is what enables the user to complete the transformation. Along with that, the watch has more modes that enables Ben to swap into stuff like combat mode and so on, that gives Ben a uniform, which is pretty similar to the fully unlocked reboot Omnitrix and its Omninaut features, which gives Ben a spacesuit. It has a few more bells and whistles, but a somewhat simpler modified Omnitrix comes from Ben 10 Delta. This is a Ben Tennyson who never took off the Omnitrix, and only being at age 14 is 1 year before the events of Alien Force. He goes on to live a life of crime fighting, and the Delta Omnitrix comes with everything that is suitable for that. It has a gauntlet-like glove, similarly to what we've seen in classic Ben 10K, with a major difference being no master control unlocked. However, this watch does possess the Lifeform Lock mode, a feature that allows the user to stay in a specific transformation for longer periods. We have seen this in Frogs of War when Ben was stuck as Bullfrog as a disguise, and also we have seen it in Small Problem when Ben is stuck as Grey Matter. Along with that, Ben has access to the quick switch function, which allows him to jump from one alien to the next while already being transformed. Last time we saw that outside of master control in classic was in Alien Force, and even though it allows Ben to mix up his options for combat, it also depletes the power of the watch much faster, so that's a bit of a downside. However, there's even more downsides when it comes to the
Level 2. The Dystopia.
These are Fan Omnitrixes that have come from a reality that is dystopian, a very common, potentially overused grift in the Fan Omnitrix community. One of the first of its kind and the most popular is the Carnitrix, a watch that when it is merged with Ben's DNA caused him to undergo painful body horror-esque transformations. This is based on the fact that Azimuth had a distinct hate for life and the universe itself and wanted to end all life within it. I think that's called nihilism. Anyways, this Omnitrix creates grotesque and corrupted versions of the aliens of the watch. These aliens are a bit weaker than the Prime Timeline Omnitrix, however they are 10 times as bloodthirsty, with one of the most notable ones being Carnitrix Alien X. This version of Alien X was very destructive, sort of reminds me of the Batman Who Laughs. However, it became the reason why multiple alternate versions of Ben Tennyson came to stop him, with Ben 10K being the one to clutch it up and end his story. On a separate note, another dystopia is the absolute Ben 10 universe. In this universe, Grandpa Max has died, and Ben is now on his own as regards to moral guidance. Still, he is surrounded by his family, like Gwen and his parents. He finds the Omnitrix in a forest that produces physically enhanced aliens that are bulldozers in their own right, with only Accelerate having appeared at the point of this recording. This Omnitrix operates in a different way in comparison to other watches, as it has an Ultimatrix design along with a semicircle display as the alien selection user interface. It makes a difference, but another type of Omnitrix that thrives on differences are
Level 3. The Augmentors.
The Augmenters are the types of Omnitrixes that take the original catalog of aliens and shift their power set and genetic makeup. Take for example the Soul Trix, which is an Omnitrix that does 2 main things with its transformation. It turns the user into varying types and levels of hybridization. So take for example Heat Blast, who would be a full Pyronite, starts with a basic human and Pyronite hybridization transformation. The way he graduates to powering up more is through the use of gaining a closer relationship between him and the host alien conscience. This type of augmentation develops the original concept and aliens into being something brand new. Another very famous style of this augmentation form is the X-Trix. The X-Trix is a future contraption that is created by the son of Ben 10K, which is Ken 10. However, this version of Ken 10 has been turned into an evil mastermind by Eon. Because of this, Ben locked away Alien X from his son. In efforts to unlock him again though, he ended up creating an Alien X hybridization of the original playlist, called an X Enhancement. It's similarly to Omni Enhanced from the reboot, but with Celestial Sapien DNA. These kinds of augments are building on the original concept in such a unique way, but another watch that does that is the
Level 4. The Spawners.
These type of Omnitrixes operate in a very different way from the typical Fan Omnitrixes, where in this case is where the watch doesn't transform the user, but it decides to spawn the aliens instead. This is a phenomenon that has happened in the series proper in episodes like Vengeance of Vilgax and Ultimate Sacrifice, but the Fan Omnitrix that popularized the concept was the Chakitrix, as it took spawning to a whole other level. Because after Azimuth and Max Tennyson conversed about what was originally the Omnitrix, they started talking about all sorts of Guna type things, and that's how we ended up with the Chakitrix, a watch that would create aliens that would have compatible DNA with the user and would be used for odd purposes. The Chinitrix doubles down on this concept as well, spawning alien girls, but they are incredibly feral, since the concept combines them with the Carnitrix, which is what makes them so sadistic. The Chakitrix is very popular, spawning its own comic that's on its way to complete its first season. However, there's a concept that juxtaposes the premise of the Omnitrix completely. That is,
Level 5, the Flippers.
these are Fan Omnitrixes that flip the concept of the Omnitrix and its aliens. A prime example would be the Reverse Trix, that operates in inverse to the Omnitrix, which is what creates aliens that are opposite to the original DNA sample. Some good examples would be Heat Blast, who becomes Water Blast, moving from pyrokinetic powers to hydrokinesis, and even Grey Matter, who is no longer a tiny genius, but a gigantic brute. These kinds of flippers double down with the Altertrix, as that has also changed the concept of the aliens, having them now oppose their natural born strengths. Like in this case, making 4 arms go from a powerful brutish warrior to being a slender psychic type of alien, and even having upgrade going from the gelatin like slush of nanites into becoming a more solid mechanized mechamorph that can control tech in a different way. Another Omnitrix that does this is the Zertrix. This Omnitrix was corrupted on its way to Earth and produced aliens that were flipped in their nature of transformation. An example being Freeze Dry, the corrupted Paranite whose plasma creates ice instead of flames. Very cool stuff. These kinds of changes have just turned original concepts on its head, and it's resulted in a lot of cool ideas. But what comes next is an Omnitrix that goes far beyond that, and that is
Level 6, the Mythical.
a mythical Fan Omnitrix is one that is centered around creating transformations that have some sort of extra element to them that aren't directly related to aliens, maybe something spiritual or something from folklore or any other form of fiction. The Zelotrix is a perfect example of a mythical Omnitrix, as it leans heavily into the mythical aspect of using demons instead of aliens as a means of transformation. Because of this, the watch didn't come from space above, but it came from hell below. This watch was a storage device that was used to consume and sustain the various demon species as a form of Noah's Ark. However, it's living and carnivorous. Anyways, when this watch attaches to Ben Tennyson, it allows him to become a literal demon while sharing a body with the cataloged specimen, sort of like Naruto and the Ninetales. This sort of use of the concept is genius, as it sets it apart from all the other kinds of Fan Omnitrixes, with the only one that could rise above it being
Level 7, the Originals.
These are Fan Omnitrixes that have far deviated in some meaningful way. The AU created by Matthew Bates is a great example, as this version of Ben doesn't only turn into aliens, but most of his transformations are cryptid inspired, which are mythical creatures. However, the reason why this watch goes far beyond being a mythical Omnitrix is because it has completely new alien transformations. Stuff like Sasquatch, a Sasquatch-inspired alien that has telekinetic powers and super strength, Riptide, a water alien that can inflate like a pufferfish and shoot out pressurized water, and even Little Junkie that has the ability to construct tech out of garbage and also shift the size and length. Like, these are aliens I would love to see in a new iteration of Ben 10. But the 5YL Omnitrix has also been a special case for things like this, as it has produced a lot of new aliens, such as Buckwild, an alien that is so fast that it can create time variants, and the various Manzardales from the planet of Arctiquana as well, like Spittake, an alien whose spit is incredibly sticky after it consumes large amounts of sugar, and Riptide, an alien that can spit pressurized water at its targets, a bit similar to Matthew's Riptide. These types of Fan Omnitrixes dig deeper into their own creativity and dig up something brand new that fits into the universe seamlessly. But if you want to see a real seamless transition, check out the 7 levels of Ben Tennyson. You won't be disappointed.